I was born in London, Ontario, at St. Joseph's Hospital. That is the same hospital that a couple of Canadian Hollywood stars were born at. And they were actually born in the same month and the same year that I was born. So we were little babies in incubators, not incubators, but in little cribs beside each other. You know how they used to put the cribs where you go and like look through the window where the babies are? Yeah, so I was born in London. I grew up mostly in rural Ontario and southwestern Ontario. In my earlier life with my grandma and poppy, they lived in the countryside, as did my cousins and much of my family. And then I went here, there, and everywhere around to Toronto, went to high school in the Greater Toronto area, went to Indiana, got a degree in journalism and communications, and then started working at an agency, a PR agency in Toronto, an independent PR agency called Media Profile. And actually founded by one of my mentors, Patrick Gossage, who was the press secretary of Pierre Trudeau, which is very, very cool. But even cooler than that was the kind of man that he was. And it taught me a lot about not only PR, but about being a good human being. He is a great human. The agency was growing. They did not have an office here in Vancouver, and they needed someone to do that work. They needed someone to represent clients on the ground here in Vancouver and on the West Coast. And me, with my inflated sense of young self at the time, I guess, said, I'll do it after a very little experience. And they said yes, much to my surprise. And I moved to Vancouver to start the Vancouver office for Media Profile. And I did that for about, I think just over 6 years it was. A great, great experience. I got to work with a variety of clients, corporate, consumer, nonprofits, just so many different experiences. So that's how I ended up here. After the 6 years, I left my job with the agency, not on my own. I partnered with a friend and mentor, and we were a duo. We co-owned a business for a few years. She has since retired, and since 2015, so I guess that's 10 years now, I have owned Thexton PR on my own solely. So that's how I ended up in Vancouver. My biggest influence growing up was my grandmother, definitely. I think it's because she had a lot of qualities that I not only admired, but I relied on. She was very gentle, kind, loving. And not only that, she had this kind of superhero ability to never, ever say or do a negative thing towards another. I never heard her say anything negative. I never heard her in a conflict. She never engaged in any gossip. She just had this quality about her. She was a Christian and taught me about Jesus throughout my whole childhood. And I think that had a lot to do with her character. And so it would be her for sure. My grandma left us. I say that, I don't think she wanted to leave us, but she passed away quite some time ago. And I miss her very, very much. I wish that she could meet my kids. That's one of my biggest wishes. She would love that. Biggest professional struggle I have overcome. I am an introverted, somewhat shy, and at the beginning of my career, very insecure, not knowing that I knew what I needed to know. And it took me years to be comfortable in my own skin, to have the confidence to be able to present an idea with confidence and with strength and with swagger, and to do so in a room that's often dominated by older males. And so really the obstacle was, knowing that you've got this, you have the knowledge, you have the skills, you rock at what you do, you hustle like no one else. There's a ton of things I cannot do, but public relations is one that I know I can do very well. And it took me a lot of years to have confidence in myself in a way that really showed when I was with clients or presenting to clients or bring ideas to them. I guess this is a really hard question because I don't know why. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know why people have said yes at the beginning, and even season 2, and even part into season 3, because the guests that I have been privileged to host are so beyond phenomenal that I never expected the yeses. I would shoot out a request for a podcast guest, thinking, what's the worst that can happen? They'll say no. And they said yes time and time again. So this is such a hard question to answer. What I'm going to say is that I love all the episodes that I had the opportunity to speak with media and digital leaders, because that opportunity shifts the table and gives us a perspective of being able to hear from media that we don't usually get to hear from. Aaron MacArthur, Laurie Colbert, Carrie Gold, people, leaders in the journalism space that report on others, but we don't know much about them. So learning that was amazing. If I was to talk about the episodes that hit me in the heart, that were powerful to me personally, episodes come to mind like Stephen Stark. Stephen Stark, that is an episode I highly recommend watching. He's a very impressive professional who has overcome unbelievable odds to get to where he is today. And when he was describing his story to me, I was so blown away by his character and his ability to overcome and to, have the strength and the entrepreneurial spirit to just get him to the successful place he is today. Troilana Manson comes to mind for sure. I was just so humbled that she felt safe and comfortable in my podcast space to share the story of her son, Aaron, about who he was as a man, and about his life, about the way in which he passed. And she described from beginning to end. And that story, that episode continues to be one of the most streamed episodes of the podcast, even though it went well over an hour. And I think that's because it was so incredibly authentic and moving to people. And it really showed who Aaron was. I didn't know him personally, but I've since become friends with Troilana Manson. And so that would be another one that stands out for me. Okay, how long do we have for this episode? When I have an issue that I really care about, I tend to cling on to it, and I feel I'm going to solve the issue for the world. I know realistically that's not going to happen, but I can do my small part. So I would say that the biggest, let's say the top 3, number 1 would be advocating for those with mental health and substance use challenges, and working to debunk myths, stereotypes, judgment, and stigmas around mental health and substance use. I have my own lived experience, and I know many who have, and I'm passionate about that. As Guy Felicello would say, the stigmas and the shame and the stereotypes are just as deadly as the drugs themselves, as they keep people from seeking help often. The other thing I advocate for is children with neurodiversity, children who are on the spectrum, so children who are neurodiverse. I have a son with ADHD, and I have found that his needs are not met in the public school system, and so I've advocated pretty heavily around that, and I've come to the school guns a-blazing a few times, advocating to the school around that. He's now at a great school, and I'm so blessed and thrilled to be able to say that right now. But children who have ADHD and are on the spectrum in other ways is definitely an area that I'm passionate about, as I feel that they often fall through the cracks, are misunderstood, even by teachers and by parents, by big people, adults who need to know. And there are far more neurodiverse, amazing children than are even diagnosed. So that's an area that I'm really passionate about. Anti-bullying goes along with that. Bullying is something we've experienced in our family. And bullying, although we have Pink Shirt Day, and I think it's a fabulous day, and the intention behind it is great, I still believe that we need to have an absolute zero policy for bullying. And I mean, that needs to be, really, really, really taken seriously to the utmost degree, not just talked about and talked around, but action needs to be taken immediately. It was not done for my son, and it escalated, and it hurt him a lot. And so bullying is another one I care about. There are several others, but I won't go through them all. Those are maybe the top three. My biggest personal struggle has been trying to find purpose and peace and joy and satisfaction in the wrong places. That led me to living years of my life dependent on substances while I was an adult, a successful professional, and it took a lot from me. I lost a lot during that time. I lost a lot financially. I lost a lot when it comes to who I am as a person. I compromised my ethics, the kind of person that I am. But I was very sick, and so really learning for me, people have their own road, and a lot of the guests have said this, and I completely agree. Everyone has their own road to healing, whether that be from substance use or other pains or ailments. But for me, it has been my faith in Jesus, and I rely on my faith and the power of Christ to lead my life. So that's how I overcame that struggle. Okay, so for the podcast, this is a passion project. Although it's grown significantly with an impressive number of streams and subscribers via YouTube in a short period of time, we don't make money from the podcast. This is a heart project. We do it because we love it. And I say we, my producer and husband, Angel, and myself. And so the goal for this podcast moving forward, speaking from my perspective, would be to continue to present conversations that I believe are important to present because they're teaching myself as the host. I'm learning, and so listeners maybe are learning too. They're also perhaps providing people with information that has them questioning their views or their traditional opinions on things, giving them a new perspective, sharing information that might help them to learn something that will really add value to who they are and how they present themselves in this world. And I would like to grow the podcast. And the reason I want to grow it is not because I want to be a famous podcaster or because I want the podcast to be number one. It's because I want more and more people, as many people as possible, to hear from as I said earlier, the phenomenal guests that I am so fortunate to be able to host discussions with.